All right, we're all the way here.
Good to be with you again. Thank you.
Indeed.
My I've had some incredibly calm waters this past week in terms of my integration of the energy and this feeling of incredible peace and stillness, and it's very lovely. And and then the outworking of everything is very beautiful. It's very like colors are more vivid and things go more smoothly. And then I've had things in my awareness that come up, like my mother going into the hospital again and having to work through some of the, things that she needs, where I wonder, I thought, like I said to myself, I thought I'd kind of work through all of this, emotionally. And I know we've talked about how things will you'll circle through and then other things will pop up. But is there just like maybe a simple reason that I'm just to accept everything and recognize that I don't have control? It
That's
could have
the reason. That is the growth. That is the learning. That is, if you want to call it a lesson, you can,
yeah,
because it is showing it to you, and you are going to continue to run into it. But that is what you take away from it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, um, so then there was this feeling of compassion and acceptance and allowance, and I understand you know, this isn't about me as much as, you know, allowing her to be where she is. And but I find myself getting tired, so I know there must be some resistance. I went out for a hike today, which was awesome. Felt good to get outside and um yeah. So all of that, this beautiful calmness, these calm waters, this feeling of, wonder and amazing, like just allowing and life showing me and relaxing into it. And then these challenges that I see as separate, I guess. I see them as separate from everything, and maybe that's part of the issue. I'm kind of putting them here as, these aren't good. I'm judging them and saying, these don't feel right, so therefore they're not good. And then I ask, well, what is this for? And I get this sort of answer around just to accept and allow. So that's what I'm doing.
And you wonder why you're tired. That's a lot of different energies that you're offering. Now, it is a process, and we're not saying that you're doing anything wrong in the process, but we
Right.
want you to recognize that part of that sorting that you're getting still a little too involved in is
Yeah.
draining your energy. And so, how do you know? How do you know what's appropriate for you to give your attention to? How do you know what's appropriate for you to engage with? How do you know when you're being compassionate versus meddling, or when you're going too far or saying too much or saying too little? How do you know? And it's always by the way that it feels in that process. The fatigue, the tiredness is just an extension of dwelling in that exhausting energy a little
Yeah.
bit too long. And you can get to the place where you sort of touch it and back off, but
Mm,
it may upset other people around you, but that is
mm,
part of their own process. And so how do you navigate your way through that process without being or feeling unkind or uncaring, while
mm,
still maintaining your positive influence? Because that's what this is all about, is maintaining your positive influence. And the simple answer is feel your way through it. You'll know the words to say, you'll know the places to go, you'll know if you're pushing, you'll know throughout all of that if you're paying attention in the very subtle stages to the feeling that's going on there. The rest of it is circumstantial. The rest of it is sort of just semantics. The rest of it will fall into place as you're following that inner energy. But as we've been saying, we can't offer a roadmap or a blueprint in terms of specific actions, when to say this, when not to say this, when to engage in conversation, when not to, in any sort of absolute form. It's that relative awareness. And that is what you take away from this. And that awareness and recognizing what is yours and what is not yours, they're the same thing. It is that recognition. People call it a boundary. That word is upsetting to some. It is liberating to others. The term itself doesn't matter, but you can feel you're flowing, you're expressing, you're in the flow, and then you feel a little bit of a pushback. And the
Yeah.
response, in other words, it's a physical, inherited, almost biologic response for you to react in that way.
Right.
And so don't be hard on yourself if you do. You're
Mm.
just habituating yourself. You're just practicing yourself. And if you start to compare it to any sort of outside standard in terms of how your behavior is supposed to be, then that adds even more pressure into the system.
Yeah.
And that's when you feel really, really exhausted of the whole thing.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly it. It's sort of like living under those expectations of, well, you come out of the hospital and they give you like 5 pages of instructions, and then they call and they give you more instructions, and then they tell you to do this, and then they tell you to do that. And if you don't do it, then, somebody's going to die. So it's like, um, so I've been asking myself, how do I just do that without turning it into a burden, the feeling of a burden? Because then I think my resistance is around, resenting that I'm doing this when I could be doing something.
Which means you've gone too far into it. By the time you have that resentment, you've
Yeah.
already been sort of stressing yourself out. You've been grinding along. You've been not enjoying the process. And it builds up to that larger feeling of resentment.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
So it's to step it back. And when you start to feel, and you have to check in with yourself all the time, because it's easy to, let's use that manual as an example, to get 10 pages in, 15 pages in, and say, okay, well, I'm just going to grind through this and make myself a little bit miserable, but then it'll be over. And that's what we say is the decision point, the awareness point, to step away. And again, it's easier said than done, because you all process information so naturally. And we want you to step back from that process to refresh the self. And then you'll know if it's even appropriate for you to be going through that. Or maybe you'll flip it open to a certain page and the answer will jump out to you. It doesn't, all of those solutions are beyond the comprehension of your conscious mind. They're beyond your comprehension. So you have to reprioritize, delegate it, let what is called the universe, let the inner self, let all of that non-physical guidance help you out. But you have to get into the place where you're receiving the guidance. And then the solutions will come to you from every direction. Someone could call you on the phone and say, I just read this 500-page manual and I have the best idea. And you'll say, oh, I'm so glad you read that, so I don't have to. Or you'll find a video, or you'll again open it to the right page. It doesn't matter. The solutions can come and will come at you from every angle, and will continue to do so, and are continuing to do so.
Yeah.
But you can't get it if you're in other words, you could think that you're studying this work and you're kind of miserable through the whole thing, and you gloss right past an answer that you are looking for without even realizing it, because you have that barrier, you have that veil, you have that sort of cloudiness obscuring that clear vision. So again, it affects all different aspects, your personal interpretation and also what you're drawn to and also what's drawn to you and how you receive it. And you just have to get back to that stable state at the center of all of it.
Yeah, thank you for that really good reminder. Um, I recognize the energy of ease and flow, and being open in that respect and allowing that energy to work through me. And I love that feeling and I love that experience, and that is the intention. So I see that it is by sort of default or habit that I get back into this other kind of way of relating. And I can consciously, um, I think, just allow, because I trust the universe, I trust myself, I trust the goodness, and be in that state. And I've been doing that. It's sort of like surrendering to this place of stillness and allowing. And it's true, the universe comes forward with solutions, with insight, with guidance and wisdom. And it's almost all I have to do is just think about it, and pretty much the answer is there,
Indeed.
you know? So, so I see what I'm doing here is what I'm trying to tell you. And I understand what you're saying and why I have exhausted myself. I guess I'm kind of surprised at myself a little bit, but I know that more and more and more as I allow the energy, this love, this powerful feeling of connection to be the dominant kind of experience that I step into, um, that there will be more ease, more joy. So I guess that I'm also wondering.
We just want to pause for one
Yeah.
moment because
Mhm,
what you just gave us was
mhm.
such a powerful momentum of energy.
It was
And
powerful.
they're not just words that you're speaking, you're not just explaining, you're offering that. And that's what you did, that little mm, indulging in the energy. We want you to continue that as much as you can.
Awesome. It's also a matter of being comfortable in a sense. Comfortable is the only word I could really find, but maybe familiar is better in the energy.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a
familiar.
practice.
Yeah, it is a different way of seeing or a different way of experiencing, believing, um, based on a belief and acknowledgement of who I truly am and how that works, or integrates, I guess, with my human experience. So, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Um, so yeah, so I don't need to explain anymore. I don't need to complain anymore. But I do appreciate you saying, give yourself a break in a way. Like, if it's happening, it's not a bad thing. It's just happening. And I
Indeed.
can pull myself back from that fork in the road. Just kind of go back. So, yeah, I think I've got it.
Indeed.
Hmm.
It's easy to beat up on yourself in situations like that and to say, oh, I should know better. And we say, well, if you did know better, then you wouldn't be mean to yourself when you haven't fully integrated it.
Yeah. Yeah. um, okay. Well, that was kind of the main, like, awareness, I guess, that I've been working through this week. And like I said, there is this beautiful, like, allowing of energy to flow with me, through me, shine and radiate. I have this image of, that image of Jesus with, like, he has a halo around him, around his head, and he has, a heart, an open heart.
Indeed.
And I've been really sort of meditating on that a little bit because there's a power in that feeling of the integration of the heart and the energy, the inner energy kind of like working together through this beautiful face, through this beautiful um, physical, you know, being. Um, anyway, that's left an impression upon me that really speaks to sort of allowing that integration to happen.
Indeed.
It's kind of cool. Yeah.
And that's part of the process. You found that connection first, and then you draw to yourself all of the images.
Oh,
And as those images become stronger and stronger, they gain creative momentum, and then they're allowed to physically manifest. And so when you perceive, when you're looking into the inner world from that state of connection, you're perceiving all of these energies, but you're perceiving them through your own sort of symbolic language. So it's very meaningful to you. And each of these symbols, each of these ideas are filled with energy. When you continue to maintain your center, you draw them to you, they pulse with the energy, and then they start to almost release or merge that energy with you, which then creates a combustion, which then draws even more energy to you and more energy to you. So, whatever's coming to you, we want you to just go with it, to let yourself experience it fully.
fully. Yeah. Yeah. There is a fullness to that energy that is, it feels like an up level or something. It feels like um, yeah, it just feels like a
It's
high.
calling you forward.
Okay.
It's calling you forward, and then you'll integrate with that. And that moment we described where the images come close and you feel their energy, you become one with them, there is a combustion and expression, which then you could call it on another level. We don't like that terminology very much, but it crests into a new experience. We
Okay.
often refer to them as circuits in that sense. You're in one state of being, and you're encircuited within all of these different experiences, and you're having the same conversations, you're seeing the same people. All of this is being portrayed to you through what is ultimately symbolism in that sense, because all of your physical reality is your interpretation of that energetic process. And as you have the intention to continue this expression of the inner energy, then the encircuited experiences grow in intensity, and you're drawing new images from the inner world, and you're drawing new physical experiences, and it all builds and it all builds. And that's what you're feeling, is that energy as it grows and grows until there is a combustion, and then you sort of crest into a new circuit. And in this new circuit, there are all sorts of different experiences being drawn to you. You're having new conversations with the same people, you're having new people come into your life, you're having some people perhaps move out of your life, you're having new images being drawn to you in the inner mind, and you're going to feel that process continue to build and build and build until there's a combustion, and so on and so forth. And so that's the creative process. We've talked to you many times about sort of going in layer by layer deeper into that core connection. And that's exactly the same process. As you have a sort of layer, you're going to have all the similar experiences, similar thoughts, similar images, similar emotions, similar conversations. And then when you allow that to sort of relax and you go deeper, the same process happens. Now, the building and the intensity will feel like pressure, because it is. You're growing, you're expanding, and you're also going deeper into that connection. And so, as we've said before as well, it's going to reveal all of the places where that process is not flowing.
Right. I did think about that, that my response or my reaction to some of this follow-up work, for instance, was an opportunity for things to come forward and for me to recognize where my resistance was, where my beliefs around it were. So even knowing that I can bring all of this to everything, that comes up,
Indeed.
all of this meaning, all this inner energy, allows me to release some of the boundaries, some of the limitations, and move through.
And not only are you bringing that portion of yourself to all of this, you're bringing all of this to you. It's a
Yeah,
give and take process.
yeah, 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 yeah. So one thing that comes up is this sort of idea of health and vitality, and this thought of me as a healthy, vital human being, physically, mentally, emotionally. And so the idea is that I know that I am. I know I am. Like my cells are perfect. My this energy, like it has to be perfect through this connection with Source. It just has to be perfect. And so I've been accepting everything that is now. Sorry, my mother's calling me. Um, could you hang on a minute, Joseph?
Indeed.
Thank you. I'll be right back. Mom?